All right, welcome back. So you guys sent in some excerpts from Effortless English by A.J. Hoagie,
Oh, great book.
and you're looking for more than just like a summary, right? We're going to kind of do a deep dive into like the WHY and the HOW behind his methods,
Yeah.
and especially those kind of aha moments that can really shift your approach to learning English.
Right. Well, I mean, right off the bat, it's fascinating how he just challenges the traditional classroom model,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He doesn't just like criticize it.
Right.
He really digs into the root causes of why so many people experience what he calls English trauma.
Yeah, and he illustrates that, right? With that story of Seiko,
Yes.
years of studying and yet terrified to speak, right?
Yes.
It just makes you wonder, what are we missing in that kind of traditional education?
Well, he argues there's almost like a hidden curriculum
Okay.
that prioritizes grammar rules and textbook exercises
Right.
over natural communication.
Right.
It's like we're teaching people to analyze language instead of actually using it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And, and that whole thing about fear of making mistakes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't scold a baby for mispronouncing mama,
Exactly.
but yet we create all this anxiety around speaking in language classes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally counterintuitive to how we actually learn naturally.
Yeah.
And so Hoagie's effortless English approach really just flips the script.
Okay.
And he actually takes his inspiration from how children acquire language.
Yeah. He's all about the massive listening, right? Like immerse yourself in
Yeah.
understandable English
Yes.
until it becomes second nature.
It's like,
Yeah.
learning to swim, right?
Yeah.
You don't start by studying the physics of buoyancy. You jump in the pool,
I like that analogy. Yeah.
And so the more you're just surrounded by the language, the more your brain just starts to pick up on the patterns and rhythms.
Okay, so ditch the textbooks
Oh,
and dive into the podcasts, the movies, the real conversations.
Yeah.
It's about absorbing that real English.
Yes.
Not the stilted stuff
Yes.
we see in the exercises.
And he actually makes a really strong case against grammar study,
Yeah.
which I know can sound kind of radical.
Yeah.
But when you think about it,
Yeah.
do you consciously analyze grammar rules when you're speaking your native language?
Not really.
It just flows.
Yeah, it just flows. Yeah.
So he's saying that by focusing on the input,
Right.
on absorbing that authentic English, the grammar actually becomes intuitive,
Right.
almost like a subconscious skill.
Almost like a muscle memory thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He actually uses the analogy of athletes,
Yeah.
You build that muscle memory through consistent practice, not by studying diagrams.
Right.
Speaking English fluently is a skill,
Right.
not just knowledge.
Okay, so it's about training your brain and your mouth to produce this naturally.
Yes.
But what about the specifics? He talks about learning phrases, not just words.
Yes.
Right?
He does, yeah. It's like learning those pre-built Lego blocks instead of having to deal with the individual pieces.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So you're internalizing these chunks of natural language.
Right.
And it helps you bypass that translation process that can really slow us down.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where things get, I think, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because he argues that mistakes are valuable.
Yes.
Which I think is a huge mental shift for a lot of learners.
It's about reframing those mistakes as feedback,
Okay.
as stepping stones on the path to fluency.
Yeah.
Imagine a child learning to walk.
Yeah.
They fall countless times,
Right.
but they keep getting back up.
Yeah. It's that persistence
Yes.
that matters. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so he doesn't just tell us to embrace these mistakes.
Right.
He provides specific tools
Yes.
to accelerate this process.
Yes.
And one that really stands out to me is the point of view stories,
yes.
right? So instead of these dry grammar lessons,
Right.
you're immersed in a story that's told from multiple perspectives,
Right.
naturally exposing you to all these different tenses and grammatical structures.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like sneaking in the grammar practice without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And then there's the movie technique, which sounds incredibly fun.
Yes.
This is where we tapped into the power of mimicry.
Mimicry, yeah.
So he recommends choosing a scene
Right.
from a movie you like,
Right.
analyzing it,
Yeah.
and then mimicking the actor's pronunciation, rhythm,
Yes.
even their body language.
Their body language, yeah.
I mean, it's like acting class for language learning.
It is, yeah.
But isn't there a risk there of sounding too theatrical or unnatural?
Well, that's where choosing the right scene is important.
Okay.
You're looking for that natural
Uh-huh.
conversational dialogue,
Okay.
not Shakespearean monologues.
Got it.
Right. The idea is to train your ear and your mouth
Right.
to produce natural sounding English.
Okay. And what about those mini story retells? those seem designed to kind of boost fluency and rapid thinking.
Yes.
Right.
They are, yeah.
So you listen actively to a short story,
Right.
answer some comprehension questions,
Uh-huh.
and then you retell the story in your own words,
Yeah.
focusing on speed and fluency.
Speed and fluency, yes.
So it's like a workout for your brain,
Exactly.
training you to think and speak in English on the fly.
On the fly, yeah.
And he emphasizes doing these multiple times.
Multiple times, yes.
Right.
That's the deep learning principle.
Okay.
So instead of just rushing through tons of material,
Okay.
you choose one audio piece
Okay.
and you really absorb it
Got it.
through repeated listening and practice.
So it's like he uses that athlete analogy again.
The athlete analogy again, yeah.
You know,
Like mastering the fundamentals
Yeah.
through repetition,
yeah,
just like practicing a golf swing
right.
or a tennis serve.
Or a tennis serve, right?
And one thing to remember, too, is he really emphasizes choosing material that you actually find engaging.
Right, of course.
Right. Because that prevents boredom and it keeps you motivated.
Right. So if you're passionate about history,
Yes.
find a history podcast that you love.
Find a history podcast. Exactly.
Like if you're into sci-fi,
Yeah,
read that sci-fi novel in English.
exactly.
Yeah.
Connect your passion
Right.
with your English learning journey.
Yeah. And another unique aspect of his approach is that
Yes.
he emphasizes this physical and emotional aspect of learning.
Yes.
It's not just about sitting at your desk and studying.
Right. He wants us to bring energy, movement,
Right.
even music into the process.
So he talks about this, he calls it like the English rock concert.
English rock concert, yes.
So we're blasting our favorite English songs, dancing around the room, shouting, yes, 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 while practicing our pronunciation.
You got it. It might sound unconventional,
Yeah.
but there's a method to the madness, right?
He believes that incorporating that physical movement and those positive emotions actually accelerates the learning process.
It's like tapping into that kind of childlike sense of
Exactly.
play and fun that we kind of lose
Right.
as adults.
Exactly.
And speaking of community,
Yes.
he places a lot of emphasis on that as well.
Community is huge.
Right.
Yes.
It's not just about solitary learning.
He believes that having that supportive community of like-minded learners can make a world of difference.
Absolutely.
In your progress and your motivation. It's that sense of belonging,
Yes.
of shared purpose that
Exactly.
can kind of keep you going
Keep you going, yes.
when things get tough.
For sure.
And he actually goes beyond just recommending an English learning group.
Right.
He talks specifically about the Effortless English Club,
Yes.
right? Which isn't just a random group of people chatting in English.
Right.
It's designed around specific values and a very clear mission to foster success. So it's about creating a positive and productive environment. Exactly. Where learners can support and inspire each other.
Yeah.
Not just practice small talk.
Not just small talk, yeah.
Uh,
And, one thing that really struck me about his approach is how he connects
yeah.
language learning to personal development.
Oh, okay. Yep.
He's not just teaching English.
Right.
He's actually empowering learners to achieve their goals and live a richer life.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, he talks about the importance of setting clear, compelling goals.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to achieve with English? Traveling the world, having deeper conversations, advancing your career.
Yeah.
That vision becomes your fuel.
It's so much more motivating than just, oh, I want to be fluent, right?
Exactly.
Like you have that tangible goal that pulls you forward
Yes.
even when you hit those plateaus.
Yeah. And he also reminds us that the journey itself is valuable.
Right.
So every new word learned, every conversation,
Right.
every aha moment,
Right.
those are all wins to celebrate.
Yeah.
It's about shifting our mindset from focusing solely on that end goal to appreciating the process of getting there.
Yeah. That's huge because, let's be honest, sometimes learning a language can feel like a slog,
It can.
especially if you're comparing yourself to others or you're impatient for results.
Right.
So,
He offers this really powerful analogy. He says, learning English is like learning to ride a bike.
okay.
You're going to fall, you're going to wobble, there will be scrapes,
Right.
but each time you get back on that bike, you're refining your balance.
Right. Yeah.
You're building those skills.
I love that. And eventually, you're just riding smoothly without even thinking about it.
Exactly.
It's that same sense of ease and flow that we're aiming for
Yes.
with English.
Exactly. And he also talks about the importance of finding your own rhythm,
Okay.
experimenting with different techniques to see what clicks for you.
Right.
Not everyone learns the same way.
Right. So it's not about rigidly following some method,
Right.
but discovering what works for your learning style. Exactly.
right? Maybe you're a visual learner. Maybe you need that auditory immersion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So speaking of immersion,
Yeah.
he takes it a step further, encouraging us to dive into English language culture.
Oh, okay.
It's not just about the words, it's about understanding the humor,
Right.
the customs, the way people think.
Oh, so it's like being a cultural detective almost.
Right.
And suddenly all those idioms and slang expressions make
Yes,
so much more sense.
they do, yeah.
Yeah.
And he suggests doing this through movies, music, even travel if you have the opportunity.
Right.
It's about experiencing the language in its natural habitat,
Yeah.
absorbing all those subtle nuances that textbooks often miss.
It just makes the learning so much richer, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not just about acquiring a skill, it's broadening your horizons,
Exactly.
connecting with the world on a deeper level.
And he introduces this really fascinating concept called the effortless English state,
Okay.
which to me is really at the heart of his philosophy.
It's about reaching this state of mind where English just flows
Right.
naturally without that constant internal translation or self-doubt.
Right. So it's like that in the zone feeling that athletes talk about, where
Okay.
everything just clicks and you're performing at your peak without overthinking it.
Exactly.
But how do we actually reach that state with English?
Well, he provides some specific techniques like mindfulness, visualization,
Okay.
positive self-talk.
Right.
It's about cultivating a sense of playfulness and curiosity,
Okay.
approaching English with joy and wonder, not fear.
That sounds amazing, but also a little challenging, right?
It can be a practice.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like rewiring your brain to think about language.
Yes.
In a whole new way.
But the rewards are huge.
Yeah.
Imagine speaking confidently and effortlessly
Right.
without that constant inner critic.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued, right? It's like that next level of fluency
Yes.
where it truly becomes effortless.
Effortless, yeah.
But before we get too carried away with all these lofty goals,
Right.
let's talk about something that I think a lot of learners struggle with,
Okay.
and that's pronunciation.
Pronunciation, yeah.
I think that can be a big hurdle.
It can be.
But Hoagie offers some really practical tips, right?
He does?
He's a big advocate for mimicking native speakers,
Mimicking native speakers, yes.
paying attention to those nuances.
The nuances.
Of intonation, stress, rhythm.
Yes.
So it's not just about saying the words correctly, but it's
No.
about sounding natural,
Natural.
capturing that musicality
Yes.
of English.
He recommends recording yourself
Okay.
and comparing it to native speaker recordings.
Okay.
Really listening for those subtle differences.
Right.
And don't be afraid to exaggerate at first.
No, okay.
You know, really focus on those sounds that feel challenging.
Right. It's like a workout for your tongue and vocal cords.
It is. And speaking of workouts,
Yeah.
Hoagie often compares learning English to training for a sport. He's all about that consistent practice and pushing beyond your comfort zone.
So just like an athlete wouldn't expect to win a marathon without training,
Right.
you can't expect to speak English fluently without putting in the hours.
Exactly. And, you know, another key point he emphasizes
Yeah.
is the importance of choosing the right materials.
Oh, okay.
He is not a fan of those dry textbooks.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Filled with these unrealistic dialogues.
Right. No more robotic conversations about the weather.
Exactly. He's all about immersing ourselves in authentic English.
Right.
The kind that native speakers actually use.
Yeah, but where do we find those materials?
Well, he recommends podcasts, audiobooks, TV shows, movies,
Right.
anything that captures your interest
Okay.
and exposes you to natural conversational English.
So it's about turning our leisure time into these learning opportunities.
Exactly.
Right. If you love true crime podcasts,
Yes.
go for it. Listen to those in English.
Exactly.
If you're a rom-com fanatic, watch those movies in English.
Watch those movies, yeah. And remember, no dictionaries.
Oh, okay.
He encourages us to guess the meaning of unfamiliar words from context,
Right.
just like we do in our native language.
So it's about training our brain to make those connections,
Yes.
to decode the meaning through inference rather than constant translation.
And, you know, something that really resonated with me is
Yeah.
his emphasis on personalizing the learning process.
Oh, okay.
You know, he recognizes that everyone learns differently,
Right.
and he encourages us to find what works best for us.
So it's about taking ownership of our learning journey, right?
Ownership, yeah.
Experimenting with different techniques,
Yeah,
finding our own rhythm,
exactly.
creating a plan that fits our needs and style.
Exactly. He's not dictating a rigid method.
Right.
He's providing a toolbox
Yeah.
of strategies
Right.
and encouraging us to become our own language learning coaches.
That's so empowering.
It is.
It takes the pressure off of having to follow someone else's path.
Yeah.
And it allows us to create an experience that's both effective and enjoyable.
And, even with the best methods and the most positive mindset,
Right.
we all hit those bumps in the road, right?
Of course. Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from the fact that there will be setbacks
Yeah.
and moments of discouragement.
It's reassuring to hear him acknowledge that
It is.
because it's easy to feel like you're the only one struggling,
Yes.
especially when you see others seemingly progressing effortlessly.
Right.
Right.
So he reminds us that it's all part of the process.
Okay.
And he offers some great tips for dealing with those inevitable dips in motivation.
Okay. I'm all ears. What are his secrets for bouncing back from those moments of, I'll never get this?
Well, he suggests breaking down your goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay.
So you're constantly experiencing those small wins that keep you motivated.
Right. It's like that saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly.
Sometimes we get so overwhelmed by the enormity of it that we forget to appreciate the progress we're making along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also encourages us to focus on progress, not perfection.
Oh, that's so important.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't get bogged down by every little mistake.
Right.
Celebrate the fact that you are learning, growing, moving forward.
It's about embracing that growth mindset.
The
So
growth mindset, yes.
seeing challenges not as roadblocks,
But
as opportunities.
better and improve.
And perhaps most importantly, he
Yeah.
reminds us to reconnect with our why,
Okay.
the reasons we started learning English in the first place.
That's so powerful because sometimes we get so caught up
We do.
in that day-to-day grind of studying vocabulary and grammar rules
Yes.
that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
The bigger picture.
Right.
Exactly.
Those dreams and aspirations that fueled our desire to learn English in the first place.
Exactly. So he encourages us to visualize ourselves achieving those goals,
Right.
to remind ourselves of the amazing experiences and opportunities. Yeah.
That await us
Yeah.
once we master the language.
It's like tapping into that source of inspiration
Yes.
that can re-energize our commitment
Exactly.
and remind us why we're putting in the effort.
And, he also emphasizes the importance of seeking support from others.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about solitary studying.
Right.
Connecting with fellow learners
Yeah.
can make a huge difference.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Having a community to share your struggles, to celebrate your wins,
Yes.
to exchange tips and encouragement.
It can be so motivating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he specifically encourages joining or creating an English rock concert,
Right.
which might sound a little intimidating,
Uh-huh.
but it's really about finding your tribe,
Right.
a group of like-minded learners who are passionate about English
Yeah.
and committed to supporting each other's progress.
I love that analogy. It
Yeah.
captures that energy and enthusiasm that can be so contagious
It can be.
when you're surrounded by people
Yes.
who share your passion.
It's no longer a solitary pursuit. It's a collective adventure.
Yeah, I love that. And, one of the most inspiring aspects of Hoagie's approach is his unwavering belief that anyone can learn English.
Anyone can learn English.
He doesn't subscribe to the idea that some people are just gifted
Right.
with language learning abilities and others are doomed to struggle.
It's a skill that can be acquired
That's so refreshing.
through consistent effort and the right approach.
Yeah, because it's so easy to fall into that trap
This is.
of thinking, I'm just not good at languages,
Yes.
especially if you've had negative experiences with those traditional methods.
Right.
So he's saying, don't let anyone tell you that you can't learn English.
Exactly.
Right.
He encourages learners to let go of any limiting beliefs they might have
Yeah.
about their abilities and embrace the fact that with the right approach,
Right.
they too can achieve fluency and unlock their full potential.
It's such an empowering message, right?
It is.
It's about reclaiming that agency over our learning journey
Yes.
and realizing we have the power to shape our own linguistal destiny.
You got it. And, speaking of shaping our learning environment,
Yeah.
he offers some great tips on how to create an immersive English experience
Okay.
in our daily lives.
So we're talking about going beyond those dedicated study hours
Yes.
and finding ways to sprinkle English into our everyday routines.
Exactly.
Right.
It could be Listening to English music while you commute,
Right.
watching English language TV shows in the evening,
Right.
reading English books before bed,
Yeah.
or even just changing the language settings on your phone and computer.
So it's about creating that constant stream of English input.
Yes.
So our brains are constantly absorbing the language,
Absorbing the language.
making those connections even when we're not actively studying.
And he emphasizes this immersion doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Right.
Start small, choose activities you enjoy,
Right.
and gradually increase your exposure over time.
It's about making English an integral part of your life.
Yes.
Not just this subject that you study in isolation.
Exactly.
Right. And, while passive immersion is valuable,
Yes.
he also stresses the importance of active listening.
Active listening.
Right.
It's not just about hearing the sounds of English.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with the language,
Okay.
striving to understand the message.
Right. So we're talking about ditching that mindless scrolling through social media in English.
Yes.
And instead choosing content that we can really focus on and learn from.
Focus on and learn from, yes.
So,
He encourages us to listen with a purpose,
okay.
to try to decipher the meaning of unfamiliar words and phrases from context,
Right.
and to use tools like transcripts and subtitles
Okay.
to support our comprehension.
So it's about making that mental effort to decode the language.
Yes.
Right. To train our brains to process that spoken English more efficiently.
More efficiently. And speaking of tools,
He doesn't shy away from recommending resources that can enhance our learning journey.
okay.
He's a big advocate for leveraging the wealth of language learning materials,
Yeah.
available both online and offline.
So we're talking about exploring those online dictionaries, language learning apps,
Yes.
podcasts, audiobooks,
Audiobooks, yeah.
and social media groups dedicated to English learning.
Exactly.
Right.
He encourages us to experiment with different resources
Okay.
to find what resonates with our learning style
Right.
and keeps us engaged and motivated.
So it's about embracing that abundance of options that are available
Exactly.
and creating a personalized toolkit
Yes.
that supports our individual learning needs.
And one of the things that really impressed me about Huggy is his honesty.
Yeah?
He doesn't sugarcoat the challenges of learning English
Right.
or pretend that there's some magic formula for instant fluency.
Right. Yeah. And it's so refreshing to hear that
It is.
because so many language learning programs promise these quick and easy results.
Right. Which can set learners up for disappointment
They
when they inevitably hit those plateaus.
Right. So he acknowledges that there will be moments of frustration,
Yeah.
setbacks, and even doubts.
Right.
But he emphasizes that those challenges are surmountable.
So he's saying it's okay to struggle.
It's okay to struggle.
It's okay to feel discouraged,
Yes.
but don't give up.
Don't give up.
Right.
And he provides these practical strategies and encouragement to help learners persevere and achieve their goals.
I love that.
He reminds us that learning English is a journey, not a destination,
Right.
and that the true reward lies not just in fluency,
Right.
but in the personal growth,
Absolutely.
the cultural enrichment,
Yes.
and the expanded opportunities that come with it.
It's about embracing the journey, savoring the process,
Yes.
and recognizing that the challenges that we face along the way
Yes.
are what make the achievement all the more meaningful.
Exactly.
And he encourages us to embrace the journey,
Embrace the journey.
to savor the process,
Savor the process.
and to celebrate every step we take toward mastery.
Every step.
Yeah, it's inspiring how he kind of weaves together these practical language learning techniques
Yeah.
with this deeper philosophy of personal growth,
Yeah.
right? It's not just about speaking English. It's
Mhm.
about expanding your world, your mindset, your possibilities.
And he really emphasizes that learning should be enjoyable.
Right.
It shouldn't be a chore.
Yeah.
You know, it's about rediscovering that childlike curiosity
Right.
and applying it to this exciting challenge of mastering English.
And one thing that really struck me
Yeah.
is how he reframes fluency.
Yeah.
It's not like this finish line that you cross.
Yeah.
It's like this continuous journey
Yeah.
of learning and improvement.
He actually encourages us to view it as a spectrum,
Okay.
recognizing that even native speakers
Right.
are always evolving their language skills.
Right.
There's always something new to learn, a nuance to refine, a vocabulary to expand.
Yeah, it's about embracing that lifelong learning journey and finding that joy
yes.
in the process of continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement, yeah.
And I love how he just kind of throws out all those traditional methods that
Yes.
rely heavily on textbooks,
Textbooks, yeah.
rote memorization.
Rote memorization, it creates this disconnect, right?
Yeah,
Between the learning and the actual real-life communication.
Right. So he's all about learning in context.
In
Yep.
context, yeah.
Yeah.
Through meaningful interaction and exposure to authentic materials.
So he wants us to just immerse ourselves in the language through
Yes.
movies, music, conversations,
Yeah.
experiencing English in its natural habitat.
Yeah, not dissecting it under a microscope.
Right, exactly. And speaking of things that textbooks don't teach,
Yes.
how do we overcome that dreaded fear of speaking?
Fear of speaking.
Right. I think that holds so many learners back.
It does, and Hoagie's advice is to just shift your focus
Okay.
from perfection to communication. Let go of that need to speak flawlessly
Yeah.
and embrace the fact that mistakes are inevitable,
Right.
even for native speakers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's about seeing those mistakes not as failures,
Yeah.
but as valuable feedback.
Right.
Each stumble helps you refine your skills and become a more confident communicator.
Yeah. And he also encourages us to think about pronunciation as more than just saying the words correctly,
Yes.
right? It's about capturing that music of the language,
That music, yeah.
the intonation, the
The
rhythm,
rhythm, yeah.
the stress patterns.
It's about embodying that natural flow and expressiveness of native speakers.
Right. So we're not aiming to sound like robots.
No robots.
Right.
Mhm.
But to really capture
That naturalness.
yeah, that natural flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
He recommends listening really closely to native speakers
Okay.
and mimicking their sounds,
Okay.
paying attention to those subtle nuances
Right.
that make their speech sound so effortless and natural.
Do you have any practical tips for how learners can practice that?
Well, he suggests recording yourself
Mhm.
speaking
Okay.
and then comparing it to recordings of native speakers,
Okay.
focusing on those areas where your pronunciation differs.
Right.
And don't be afraid to exaggerate at first.
Okay.
Really get those muscles working.
Yeah, it's like a workout for your tongue.
It is.
And speaking of finding support,
Yeah.
he strongly believes in the power of community
The power of community.
for language learning.
He encourages learners to connect with others
Right.
who are passionate about English,
Yeah.
whether it's through conversation groups, online forums, or language exchange programs.
So it's about finding your English rock concert.
Your English rock concert, yes.
Right, that group of like-minded people.
Who can provide that encouragement, that support, that accountability.
It transforms learning from a solitary pursuit
Yes,
into the shared adventure,
a shared adventure.
where you celebrate each other's successes and you help each other through those inevitable challenges.
As we wrap up this deep dive into A.J. Hoagie's Effortless English,
Yeah,
it's clear that his approach is about so much more than just learning a language.
absolutely.
It's about embracing a new way of thinking,
Yeah,
a new way of learning,
right.
and a new way of connecting with the world.
It's about rediscovering that childlike curiosity
Yes.
and applying it to this exciting challenge of mastering English.
Exactly.
It's about letting go of those limiting beliefs
Those limiting beliefs, yeah.
that hold us back and embracing those mistakes as opportunities for growth.
Opportunities for growth, yeah.
And most importantly, it's about recognizing that you have the power
You have the power.
to achieve fluency.
It's not about some innate talent.
Right?
It's about dedication, the right approach,
Yeah.
and a supportive community.
So to all of you out there on your English learning journey,
Yes.
remember Hoagie's message. Learn English effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
Enjoy the process.
Enjoy the process.
And embrace the transformative power of language.
And never underestimate the power of your own potential.